So you're thinking about retiring, and you're not quite sure what that should look like, or maybe you have some ideas of what retirement is supposed to look like, but maybe it's not going to work for you. So you need to think about maybe reimagining your retirement, like we did. In this video, we're going to talk about that and maybe hopefully give you some ideas and things to think about. Hi, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Sonny.
And what's the name of our channel?
Our Groovy Adventure.
That's right. Our Groovy Adventure. I will remember that. I hope so. Yeah. So if you watched our last video, we were talking about finding our way to retirement and kind of what got us to where we are now. So now we're going to share a little bit about how we're sort of envisioning our retirement to make it doable, to make it actually happen. Because we didn't plan ahead very well.
We didn't.
And we had a few financial setbacks, if you've watched the other videos. So we're going to talk a little bit about what traditional retirement is and maybe what retirement can be.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about Social Security.
So there's a whole history to where retirement kind of started. I'm kind of a geek that way. I kind of like to do research and stuff. And I found out that the earliest record of any kind of retirement came from a gentleman, a Roman Emperor Augustus, where he actually ended up paying his military people, anybody who stayed over 20 years in the military and served for him, he then gave them a payment for retirement.
Well, nice of him.
Yeah. And that, he kind of was the first record of that. And then the other records that I came up with is in about 1889, a German chancellor, let's see what his name is, Otto von Bismarck, to keep the young Marxists in
Commies.
Germany.
Commie, what's a coming?
Oh, get that out. To keep them from rioting because they were unemployed. They started rioting in the streets, and so what he did was he went to the people who were 70 years old and working and paid them to retire, kind of forced them out.
How many 70-year-olds were there in 1889, I wonder?
Enough that they could then move the unemployed Marxists into jobs so that they
What's a coming?
Stop. So that they could take over the jobs of the 70-year-olds. So, but the 70-year-olds didn't want to leave because what were they going to do? They now are away from farms or maybe away from family, so they didn't have anything to bring in money. So he paid them to retire so that there were jobs. So that's where retirement started kind of coming into the world, was when we were starting to pay people to open up jobs for.
I imagine with the Industrial Revolution, they had to figure that kind of stuff out. They hadn't had that before.
No, because before you were on a farm with your family, and the sons would then take over that farm, and the parents would stay there, the grandparents would stay there, and everybody stayed on the farm.
Right.
So it didn't. But then when they started moving away from the farms and going to factories and stuff, that's where they had to open that up.
So basically, in the past, the Social Security was just paying old people to leave work.
Yeah, if they made it to that age, which I don't think many did.
Must have been enough.
And then Franklin Roosevelt started actual Social Security in 1935 to help people who were 65 and older have a place to get some money from when they were no longer able to work.
Because life expectancy was what, 58. So
And he didn't expect to have to pay very many people that. So that's, and the whole, we need to talk about what the whole traditional retirement really is, too.
well, and back in those days, most companies had a pension. You worked and you got your pension.
Right. If you worked for the company for 30 plus years, 50 plus years, or whatever, they paid you your pension.
Yeah.
And that's what retirement was to everybody was, I'm going to stay at this job for 50 years and I'm going to retire.
I'm going to die or I'm going to get a pension.
Right. And when I get that pension, I'll be able to sit at home and watch TV and wait for the end to come.
Depends on your pension. You might have had a good pension.
You might have had. But I think traditionally everybody thinks, well, that's the end. You retire and that's the end. Now you just wait. You maybe go on a few cruises. You might go play a little golf. But if it's a big enough pension, and that's retirement.
Yeah.
And
now more people are living to be older than 65. So there's a lot of people that are counting on Social Security to be their retirement.
Yes.
Which, if you're younger than, say, 45, 40, might not be a good idea. I kind of think at this point, if you're older than that, it's going to be there in some form because you've already paid into it for a long time, and the politicians they don't want to mess with that. So
they don't want to tick off a bunch of voters.
Yeah. So
hopefully.
Yeah.
So for us, as you found out in the other videos, we had to reimagine our retirement because the investments weren't going to get us all the way to the end, and it started looking like the investments were going to be a good supplement to our Social Security, but we kind of had to figure out that traditional retirement way of thinking was not the right shoe for us, so we needed to find another shoe that fit different.
And I'll skip ahead here. We have notes. This isn't coming off the top of our head. There's this concept of when you retire, you've got the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And the thought of retiring during my slow-go or no-go years, I mean, what's the point?
Right.
So we were thinking we'd rather retire in our go-go years where you can go do things when you're still young enough and fit enough and, on the ball enough to do things and enjoy them.
Right.
So how can we make that work? What can we change in the equation? Because you've got money coming in and time is money and we're running out of time. So the money part's, it's hard to get. I mean, you can take extra jobs, you can start a YouTube channel or something like that. And, that's what we're doing.
And that's kind of what they talk about in the FIRE movement.
Right. The other side of that is how can you reduce your cost of living, your expenses. And so that's a big part of what we have been looking into, trying to get those two things to come together and balance where we can have a really nice quality of life. But
and be early enough that we can enjoy.
Yeah, and not have to wait until we have $1 million in the bank to do that. So
right. So we had to find some place that had a lower cost of living. Moving abroad was one of those places, and I personally was ready to retire, whether I had to eat cat food or not. I'm to that point where I really am ready to retire, and I needed to figure out how to do that. So that's where we started all of this. We talked about in the last video watching some videos on FIRE movement, and typically fire movement is retire early.
For us, it's the FUR movement.
FUR movement.
We dropped the whole early part, which is financial independence, retire. So we're FUR people.
FUR. So but the retirement, the fire movement kind of got me thinking that. So we got to thinking about moving abroad. We've mentioned that many times. I read some books on.
Showing off again. Oh, look at me! I can read.
I read one that particularly made me think. It's called "Die with Zero" by Bill Perkins. He encourages people to live their lives to the fullest by spending wisely and deliberately. He talked about in that book about dying with zero is his whole philosophy of not, we can talk about this in other videos too, but not having a huge amount at the end when you can't enjoy it and spending it now. And so that's where I got to thinking that life was short and
well, and the reality is, as you get older, like in your go-go years, you're probably going to spend more money because you're out doing more things.
Right.
Slow-go years, you're going to spend a little less money. Your no-go years, even less, until maybe you need, to live in a facility or something, or have people take care of you. Then maybe you're going to spend a little bit more. But your income requirements are going to drop as you get older. So, and if you can kind of plan ahead for that, end of life scenario where maybe you have to go into an assisted living thing or something like that, do that. But basically, you're going to be spending less as you get older. So enjoy your money while you're younger.
Yeah. There's this little blurb here, and I'll read that because I can't remember it. It makes sense to delay gratification to some extent, because that pays off in the long run. But the sad truth is that too many people delay gratification, glasses on, sorry, for too long or indefinitely. They put off what they want to do until it's too late, saving money for experiences they will never enjoy.
That was my dad. My dad retired at 65. They sold their house and bought a motorhome. 6 months later, he died. The furthest they took the motorhome was like 20 miles away from the house. And he worked all his life thinking, I'm going to travel around in this motorhome, and never did it. And that hit me. I wanted to make sure that I didn't end up that way. I want to be able to retire when I'm young enough and fit enough to go do things.
Have those experiences.
You've got one life and time is short. And that's true. And you don't know how short it's going to be. So, yeah, I plan to take advantage of the time I've got. And
it got us thinking that retirement wasn't just about sitting at home or drinking margaritas on the beach too. We started thinking.
Although I would like to have a margarita on the beach.
Well, but it's not just that.
Right.
It can be other things. It should be other things. So we.
Yeah, I mean, like we just started this YouTube channel, so that's going to be another thing.
At 58 and 60.
60. Yeah. And then I'm a retired professional photographer, so I would like to do some more photography while I'm retired, maybe some fine art stuff. So I've got that. So it's good when you're going into retirement, I think, to have hobbies and things to do, and
yes.
Don't wait until retirement to start taking these things up. Kind of hit the ground running. Not that you can't learn new things while you're in retirement, because that's another thing you can do to sort of make your retirement fulfilling, I think. So, there's other things. There's volunteering.
Mentoring.
Mentoring. If you're an expert in something, you can mentor. And hobbies, like I said, travel, like we want to do.
Teach people things. Kind of like, wow.
That was exciting. You couldn't see that, but right behind you, a picture on the wall just crashed to the ground. So
it's been there for 3 years.
That was unscripted.
So that's what that happened.
So there you go. Of course, it would happen, now. We're leaving that in though. So
that could be your outtake.
Yeah.
You could teach, and that's what we're kind of hoping the YouTube channel can do for people too. Is hopefully people can learn from our mistakes and the research that we're doing.
Yeah.
And just
hopefully our
learn from
successes. So
yes, come
so
along.
we kind of
with
hope
us.
you guys are gonna come along for the ride and cheer us on and laugh at us when we screw up and that kind of stuff.
Which I'm sure they're doing.
And yeah, hopefully we get better at this. So yeah.
So what's our next video?
I don't know. Do we have one?
I was just gonna say, do we have one?
I don't know. We got some work to do.
Well, there is a lot that we've covered, and we'll definitely our future videos will go into much more detail about cost of living and budgeting and
yeah. Once we start traveling and stuff, we'll do some more. We'll do a lot of
Travel
cost of
videos.
living and travel stuff.
yeah.
Right now, it's all planning, but within the next year, stock market willing, we're hitting the road. So stay with us.
We hope you guys come along with us, and I promise we'll get better at this and take you along with us.
All right. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again next time.
Next time.
Huevos rancheros.